Today's another top 10 video. Hello everyone, it's your friendly neighborhood demigod over here, and today we are counting down the top 10 most romantic Percabeth moments. Originally this video was going to be titled the top 10 most romantic Percy Jackson / Heroes of Olympus moments, but most of them ended up being Percabeth anyway, so let me know in the comments if you want me to make a video like this for Japer, Frazel, Galileo, Solangelo, Fiera Chase, any of the other ships. With that, let's get into the top 10 most romantic Percabeth moments. 10. This one's more of a quote rather than a moment, but here it is. Her voice caught on the word friend. Percy was more than that. Even boyfriend really didn't cover it. They'd been through so much together. At this point, Percy was part of her. A sometimes annoying part, sure, but definitely a part she could not live without. Truly beautiful, pure Percabeth. You have no idea how much I stand this moment. These two are soulmates. Percy and Annabeth reiterate again and again that they cannot live without each other. They have sacrificed themselves for one another many times over. In Percy Jackson's Greek Gods, Percy even mentions that if Annabeth were to ever die, he probably would have acted just as foolishly and recklessly as Orpheus did when his girlfriend died. And we see how differently Annabeth acts when Percy is missing. On that note, I don't think that we give Jason, Piper, and Leo enough credit for dealing with a murderous and heavily sleep-deprived Annabeth who walks around occasionally screaming at the sky. 9. Percy losing all his memories and only remembering Annabeth. True love is a force more powerful than the Queen of the Gods, my dudes. Not even Hera could erase Percy's memory of Annabeth. Percy's only memory was Annabeth's name and a face with blonde hair and gray eyes. Not only is Annabeth the only person Percy can remember when his memory is wiped, but, and I quote, he had kept himself alive almost solely by thinking of Annabeth. What's depressing about that is that in the 6 months between the Lost Hero and the Son of Neptune, Annabeth knew where Percy was. She knew that he was going to be trained by these wolves with no memory, and that if he didn't prove himself, he'd die. She also knew that if the Romans found out he was Greek, they'd most likely execute him. She knew all this, but was powerless to do anything about it, and she believed that Percy would most likely die, and that he didn't even remember her. Little did she know that he remembered her when he couldn't even remember himself. This makes their reunion in New Rome just so much more amazing. P.S. Annabeth Judah flipping Percy right after making out with him will never stop being iconic. Next. 8. The romantic dance on Mount Olympus. This is so adorable. We'll have to wait a few years, but sooner or later we will get to see this moment in live action. In true poetic romance, this scene occurs right after Annabeth turns down immortality, well, conditional immortality, for Percy. Everything about this scene is just so cute. Percy has spent the entire book sick to his stomach with worry that Annabeth will leave him for the hunters. Yet he still goes on that quest to save her, still risks everything for her, and is about to tell her he loves her, only Athena scares him too much, so instead he has a romantic dance with her in the frickin' city of the gods to make up for the fact that they got interrupted back at Westover Hall. Percy may be somewhat of a clueless dork and extremely oblivious when it comes to romance, but you gotta admit that this scene is just peak adorable. Maybe Percy didn't have the guts to tell Annabeth he loved her after that talk with Athena, which is really intelligence more than anything else because he doesn't want to be vaporized, but he still has the guts to have a super romantic dance with her, just absolutely iconic. 7. Annabeth kissing Percy in Battle of the Labyrinth. Yep! Percabeth's first kiss. Percy is willing to explode a mountain and sacrifice himself so Annabeth can get to safety. And Annabeth thinks Percy is going to die, so she kisses him. Can you imagine having a crush on someone since you were 12, then having that person become your best friend, then kissing that person a few years later because you think he's going to die, then he pops back in again 2 weeks later, totally fine, you don't talk about the kiss for a year, and then as you're about to go into a battle for the end of the world, he just goes, "Don't I get a kiss for good luck?" It's kind of tradition at this point, right? The fact that Percy still can't see he loves Annabeth after this point is hilarious. Also, earlier in the book, there's this one moment when Annabeth sits next to Percy, like right next to him, and he just starts like internally panicking and just like, that's so cute. One other moment from Battle of the Labyrinth, when Percy and Annabeth find the labyrinth and they're missing for hours, but nobody at camp looks for them because everyone thinks they're making out somewhere. 6. College in New Rome. Percy and Annabeth have found the happy ending that they deserve. These two have been through so much together and they're finally going to find happiness and tranquility in New Rome. What I love about this is that in Mark of Athena, Annabeth is worried that after spending time on the Roman side, Percy won't need Camp Half-Blood or her anymore. And when he talks about New Rome, Annabeth is like, no, Percy, you belong at Camp Half-Blood, because she's worried that he won't need her anymore. But in reality, he's bringing it up because he wants a future with Annabeth in New Rome and wants to live with her and have a family with her there. Just wow, truly wholesome. I think just love that scene between them because the rest of the Arco 2 thinks they, after that, comedy gold. 5. Percy declaring that their parents' rivalry is over. Blood of Olympus may not be an abundant clusterfuck of Percabeth moments like some of the other Heroes of Olympus books, but we did get one truly amazing scene. Remember how I said that Annabeth's mom scares Percy too much for Percy to tell Annabeth that he loves her? Well, forget that! Not only does he shout very loudly that he loves Annabeth, but he does so at the very location that their parents' rivalry started, and declaring that the rivalry is over. The fact that he was able to do so without Athena smiting him really tells you that even the gods can sense how much he means that statement. 4. Percy turning down immortality for Annabeth. Do you remember this moment? The gods were glaring at me, but Annabeth had her hands over her mouth. Her eyes were shining, and that kind of made up for it. Percy had his choice to avoid growing old, dying, being forgotten. But no, if it means he'll outlive Annabeth, he doesn't want it. More than immortality, he just wants a happy life with Annabeth. That really just makes it so much sadder when at the end of the last Olympian, they're just like, the prophecy of 7 may not come to pass for another 70 years, and maybe we won't even meet those demigods. And Hera and the Fates are just laughing maniacally up on Mount Olympus like, who's gonna tell him? Little do Percy and Annabeth know the horrors that will soon await them. 3. Percy and Annabeth falling into Tartarus. Yeah, so this moment broke our hearts. Percy, let me go. You can't pull me up. Never. We are staying together. You're not getting away from me. Never again. As long as we're together. One scene can have 1,000 romantic levels and 1,000 onion skins to make us cry. I can't even list all the layers of this scene. I can try though. I know people have pointed this out in the past, but in the last Olympian, when Percy is bathing in the river Styx, he sees Annabeth looking at him telling him, you're not getting away from me that easy. Parallels him telling her, you're not getting away from me in this scene. And what's the next we see of these characters? Annabeth pressed her lips to Percy's ear. I love you. She wasn't sure he could hear her, but if they were going to die, she wanted those to be her last words. Holy shit to these two. 2. Percy showing Annabeth his Achilles heel. I wasn't supposed to tell anyone, but this was Annabeth. If I couldn't trust her, I couldn't trust anyone. Percy trusts Annabeth with his life. Also, this is Percy showing Annabeth his physical weak spot, but emotionally, his fatal weak spot is her. I don't think there will ever be anything more beautiful than Percy having to concentrate on what keeps him anchored to the world and imagining Annabeth. Furthermore, this scene is after yet another adorable Percabeth moment when Annabeth takes the poison knife for Percy. These two love each other more than anything else in the world and will risk their lives for each other and trust each other with their lives without a second thought. How do you not ship these two? How is that possible? Before I tell you the most romantic Percabeth moment ever, let's get into some honorable mentions. Usually I don't do honorable mentions, but there are just some moments that wouldn't fit on this list, but that I couldn't exclude entirely. You drool when you sleep. Ah, yes. Percy has just defeated the Minotaur and expects to be praised by Annabeth, and instead Annabeth just kind of goes like, you drool in your sleep. This moment is absolutely iconic. I've mentioned this before, but there's actually a Lightning Thief musical, and in said musical, when Percy meets Annabeth, he's technically still asleep and singing about this beautiful girl hovering over him who looks like an angel, and suddenly he wakes up and she's just like, you drool when you sleep. Also, Annabeth kissing Percy on the cheek when they win the chariot race at the end of Sea of Monsters. This moment is so underrated. What I love about this is that not only does the entire crowd roar even more loudly when Annabeth kisses Percy on the cheek, but the Athena campers are the ones who hoist Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson onto their shoulders after that. The Athena cabin has always been Percabeth's #1 fan. I just find it so amazing that not only the Athena campers, but the entirety of Camp Half-Blood shipped Percabeth years before it was even real. These guys just knew Percy and Annabeth were going to get together. And the final honorable mention, Thrill Ride of Love. Baby 12-year-old Percy and Annabeth going through the Thrill Ride of Love is just adorable. Like, Annabeth is just there freaking out like, what if someone sees us? Reading back on this, knowing that these two bickering children are going to fall in love in a few years is just the cutest thing. 1. And it was pretty much the best underwater kiss of all time. Right after confessing to Annabeth that he loves her, Percy and Annabeth are thrown into the canoe lake and the lovebirds just make out underwater. Can you imagine getting to see this moment in live action? The underwater kiss becoming the most GIF thing on the entire internet. Why must we wait over 5 years for this? Also, do you guys remember the moment from Hidden Oracle when the geyser god mentioned the underwater kiss? That he gushed about it for weeks? That it was amazing enough to keep the attention of a god for weeks? That this geyser god was basically a Percabeth fanboy? All I'm saying is, the underwater kiss is amazing, and nothing can beat it. Anyways, that's it for the top 10 most romantic Percabeth moments ever. I know that there are probably like a dozen super cute moments that weren't on this list, so please tell me in the comments what are some of your fave Percy and Annabeth moments, and which character do you think is the biggest Percabeth shipper? Is it Sally Jackson? Is it Grover? Is it Tyson? Let me know. Also, one last thing before I sign off, with the school year starting up again, I'd just like to remind you all to wear a mask. It may be annoying, but it could save lives. One other thing that I want to mention, Black Lives Matter. Sometimes we feel inclined to ignore issues in society just because they don't affect us personally, or because they aren't trending anymore, but that's really a flawed way to live your life. Do whatever you can to support Black Lives Matter, sign petitions, go to protests, donate money, whatever. If you can't donate money but you still want to support BLM financially, just go on Google and look up Black Lives Matter fundraiser or something like that, and you can find these videos that are up to an hour long, watch those videos, let the advertisements play, and you can literally just refresh your page when the video ends and restart it again. And you can be doing something totally different on a different tab on your browser. It's literally the easiest thing in the world and it helps BLM, so do it. With that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next Friday. Bye!